Thank you, Gavin. Well, we can speak now to Louise Rowland-Gosselin, who's in Athens. She's a representative of the charity Doctors Without Borders and has recently been on Lesbos. From Lesbos itself, we have volunteer Charlotte Bellis alongside Wassam, who is a Syrian refugee, and Steve Valdez-Simons is from Amnesty International, sitting next to me here in the studio. I wonder, first of all, if we could speak to Wassam. Tell me where you're from and how you arrived in Lesbos, if you would.
I'm from Syria. Like everyone, I arrived to Lesbos by boat before 1 year and 5 months ago. And until the moment I am in this island, I have nothing yet.
And where were you in Syria? What were you fleeing from? Which city were you in, and what were conditions like there?
I am from Hama. My city I have named Hama.
What were the conditions like? How bad was it when you left?
That's so bad, absolutely. It's like, it's a war. You can imagine a lot.
Of course. And so you've been on Lesbos for nearly a year and a half. Where are you living on Lesbos? What are conditions like there for you?
Oh, the situation here is so bad. Everyone who knows that. All the world knows that, but no one, I think no one cares about anyone here.
Well,
we don't have that.
People are watching here in the UK and they may not be aware of how bad it is. So just explain to people.
I don't know if I can explain enough, but the situation here is so bad. Like, we don't have enough support. The food is not good. Where we sleep is not good. Everything here is bad. Like, also, if we want to wait for one paper, we need to wait like 6 months. We cannot go out this island. We cannot do anything. I killed 1 year and a half from my life for nothing. Like, I get nothing. They don't give us language. They don't give us anything. Just they kill the life for the refugee, nothing else.
Where is it that you want to go?
For me, I wish if I can go to Canada or to London, but I cannot, for sure.
We can see and hear from the frustration in your voice how challenging this is for you. I know that you're sitting next to Charlotte, who is a volunteer. Charlotte, are these the kind of stories that you're hearing day in, day out?
Yeah, one of the things, I came here in June, and one of the things that really surprised me, and I'm a journalist back in London, is that I thought that there would be isolated cases of vulnerability, that I might bump into the odd person who'd been tortured or seen a family member killed. But at least 90% of the people I talk to have been tortured, been held in prisons, have had family members murdered in front of them. Wassam's brother was murdered, and his other brother is also here and was tortured for 3 years in an opposition prison. Wassam was tortured for a couple of weeks trying to escape from Syria near the Turkey border. And I don't know how you decide where the line in the sand is in terms of vulnerability, because everybody has horrific stories.
Wassam, have you been offered any support within the camp for the trauma that you and your brothers have suffered?
Nothing enough here. Nothing enough. Like, we get support, but it's not enough.
Wassam's brother suffers from severe mental health issues, and Wassam is staying close to him here, trying to support him. He receives medication, but that's it. And he has attempted to take his life multiple times in the last year. But in terms of psychological support, essentially, if Wassam wasn't here, his brother would have zero support.
I want to bring in Louise and also Steve to talk about this. Louise, you've recently been in Lesbos. Is there any support at all available for people like Wassam in these camps?
Yes, I was there again this week, and in theory there is. On paper there is. On paper there are 2 health organisations in Moria camp, but the reality is that the number of people on the island has increased and the capacity of the health sectors has decreased. So there's less capacity now. We have a clinic outside of the camp and we're trying to provide in particular mental health support. to people, as well as treat victims of torture, victims of sexual violence. But we have a waiting list of over 100 people because the level of trauma that we see is so important. 20% of our mental health patients are victims of torture. Half of the women who come to us for gynecological consultations are victims of sexual violence. So it's extremely difficult to keep up with this. And we're certainly pushing for other actors to increase their capacity. We're certainly doing the best that we can to meet their demands.
Steve Simons, do you think that the Greek authorities are doing enough to help people in Lesbos? They're meant to be transferred to the mainland for that professional help.
Well, the Greek authorities aren't doing nearly enough, but it also has to be recognised that Europe as a whole isn't doing so. Europe has basically imposed upon Greece the obligation of essentially managing the deal that European countries struck with Turkey, which is designed to essentially try and send back people who've come to those Greek islands to Turkey on the ridiculous suggestion that Turkey is safe for them. And that has introduced, as it happens, a whole new bureaucratic additional system that the Greeks are trying to now manage before people can even get into their asylum system to have their asylum claims dealt with when, as happens in many, many cases, it's determined that no, Turkey is not safe for them. So unfortunately, a system in Greece that was already not working long before we had these events in 2015, 2016 and still carrying on, which is now under enormous pressure and made under increased pressure by this ridiculous deal, which is not safe for people and is trapping people, as you see, in hopeless conditions on these islands.
And just to explain, it was the European Union who paid Turkey to take these people back and process them effectively, because it's a political hot potato in Europe, across Europe, the sheer numbers of people that have been arriving and questions over whether they are people who have genuine asylum claims or whether they are economic migrants coming from maybe Africa and other places. What is it that you want to see the authorities, whether it's the Greek authorities or wider across Europe, do to help people like Wissam and his brothers?
Well, let's not forget, a country like Uganda has received more than 1 million people fleeing a conflict in South Sudan in the space of less than a year. Now, yes, it's struggling, but its borders are still open and it's processing people and it's supporting people. Europe is a huge, wealthy part of the world with enormous resources. It's dealing with comparatively few people compared to other places elsewhere. And we know that many of the people who fled to these Greek islands are coming from places, as have just been described, where their lives are plainly at risk.
Thank you all for speaking to us today. If you've got any thoughts on this, do of course get in touch with us.